Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I hope everyone is doing well. So, the conflict in the Middle East between Iran, the United States, and Israel is really heated up. A lot of stuff has happened, and I'm going to try to give you guys an update as best that I can. We're going to be going over a lot of stuff, so let's go ahead and get right into this. Let's do it. Okay, so I'm not going to pull this up on screen. I'm just going to read it from where I have it. I'm also going to do my best to get this all put together as best as I can without a lot of mess ups because I don't want to have to edit this. I just want to get it out. So, day one, uh, February 28th, Epic Fury begins. Operation Epic Fury begins. U.S. and Israel actions. U.S. and Israel forces launch coordinated and air missile strikes across Iran, targeting Iranian leadership compounds and command centers, nuclear and missile infrastructure, air defense, radar, and strategic military facilities. Assassination of Supreme Leader Khomeini confirmed as a result of strikes around Tehran. Hundreds of strikes hit major cities across Iran from Tehran to southern provinces. Iranian response. Iran immediately launches missile and drone barrages targeting Israel, including central regions and population centers. U.S. bases across Gulf states in Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, and UAE. Iran ballistic missiles and drones aim at strategic military and allied infrastructure. Casualties and damage. Iran reports hundreds killed in the initial strikes, including government officials and civilians. Iranian missile strikes Israeli territory. Civilians hit in Beit Shemesh and Tel Aviv areas. Multiple casualties. U.S. service members killed as Iranian strikes hit air bases in the region. And I think that's reported 6 total so far that we know of. Day 2, March 1st, escalation and wider strikes. U.S. and Israel continued waves of strikes across Iran against missile launchers, communications and logistic hubs, leadership bunkers, and C2 facilities. Estimated thousands of individual targets struck since conflict began. Iranian axis and regional retaliation. Iran fires missiles and drones at multiple Gulf states, hits near Bahrain's U.S. Fifth Fleet area, Manama Airport damage, strikes on Kuwait International Airport and Camp Buring. Friendly fire incident. Kuwait reports 3 U.S. F-150s shot down, U.S. F-15 shot down. Crews survive. Okay, so Iranian proxies, including Hezbollah, launch missiles into northern Israel, escalates fighting into Lebanon. Casualties and damage. Iranian civilian deaths reported in the hundreds, especially with the Manab school strike, with 180 children killed, according to some reports. Additional U.S. service members killed. U.S. military acknowledges numbers rising, but there's multiple reports. Civilian injuries and infrastructure damage in Gulf states, Bahrain, Kuwait, and UAE. Day 3, March 2nd, sustained conflict. U.S. and Israel high-tempo strikes continues, including targeting Iranian air defenses to maintain air superiority, precision strikes on remaining missile production and storage. U.S. forces expand targeting of strategic infrastructure, communications, and logistics. Iran and allies. Iran and proxies like Hezbollah continue large barrages of missile and drones strikes at Israel. Retaliatory strikes by Iran and allied militias report across Iraq, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Oman, and Qatar. U.S. military fatalities rise. Multiple reports confirm totals increasing up to 6 killed, but I think there might be more. We're not really for sure yet. Iranian Red Crescent reports over 787 killed in Iran from U.S.-Israeli strikes so far, with hundreds more injured. Israel reports around 10 civilian deaths and hundreds injured from retaliation strikes. Significant military and civilian infrastructure damage across Iran, hospitals, residential buildings, and schools. And there are deaths also in these neighboring countries. in the Gulf. Day 4, March 3rd. And so that's today when I'm recording this. U.S. and Israel leaders articulate that conflict may take weeks rather than days. Objectives include regime deterrence and strategic capability degradation. Campaign described as an ongoing Operation Epic Fury with continued heavy sustained strikes. Iran and regional actors. Iran continues firing missiles, drones at Israeli territory and U.S. installations. Regional spillover persists with cross-border attacks, Lebanon and Gulf states. Cumulative casualty figures. Iranian deaths are between 742 and 1,500, with many reporting 787 plus. U.S. service members killed, at least 6 confirmed. Israeli deaths 10 plus, with hundreds wounded. Regional allied deaths, Gulf states and Lebanon, dozens across Kuwait, Bahrain, UAE, and Hezbollah areas. Major damage so far. Iran, broad damage to military infrastructure, including missile sites, air defenses, and command centers. Civilian infrastructure hit, hospitals, schools, residential districts. Israel, infrastructure damage from missiles and drones, civilian buildings hit near Tel Aviv, Beit Shemesh, and northern areas. Gulf states, airports and military bases damaged by Iranian strikes and retaliatory actions. And also there's hotels and other buildings, and there's like a bridge, I think, that I was seeing. Okay, so that was just like a really quick overview to show the situation has really, really, really heated up. Like, it is gotten really heated over there, which, you know, is to sort of be suspected. The place is a hotbed as it is for all kinds of stuff, and it's just very dangerous right now for everybody involved. It's dangerous for the Gulf states there. It's dangerous for the Iranian people. It's dangerous for Israel, and it's dangerous even to us because we could get attacked by terrorist attacks here and also in Europe. So it's just, we need to be praying for everyone. We need to be praying that this can get calmed down. So I want to go show you guys some other stuff. Look, I'm going to be real honest with you guys. If I can't get people to subscribe or like, YouTube will literally send aliens to my house. Do you want me to be probed? I need you to like and to subscribe. Thank you. Oh, you know what? First, what I will do before I do that, I don't know how to get this on my computer, and I don't know if I have no idea if I even could, because some of it's pretty graphic. So I follow war channels, and so I'm just going to read you the thread. And these channels are not necessarily pro American. They sort of just report on everything going on. And so I've got one channel. I have several, but I have one that just has a lot in the thread, because they also report on other wars. So I'm gonna start, I think, on March 3rd. Okay, loud explosions currently in Tehran, and it shows them. And so all this is a thread from Telegram. So this is just they're getting reports as it's coming in. So this stuff isn't confirmed. So take this part with like a grain of salt. So Netanyahu stated that the U.S. Israeli military operation against Iran will not escalate into an endless conflict. According to him, a change of power in Iran will lead to the conclusion of peace agreements between Israel and Arab countries. It is reported that U.S. military personnel have received immediate instructions, to disable location. That might have been debunked, but I'm not for sure. Here's Marco Rubio talking. The next phase of the U.S. operation against Iran will be even more destructive, said Secretary of State Secretary of State Rubio, I'm not going to disclose the details of our tactical actions, but the most serious strikes from the U.S. military are still to come. The next stage will be even tougher for Iran than the current one, he said at a briefing. According to him, the goal is to destroy ballistic missiles, their production, drones, and Iranian naval forces. The operation, as Rubio emphasized, will last as long as necessary. And I'm just going to say, like, I really pray that that is the case because this is getting really heated and wild. But I will say that Putin is also in a special military operation that started almost 4 years ago, I think. Like, I'm having a hard time thinking because I just jumped on here to do all this and I have so much going on in my mind that I need to pull because I didn't prepare because I only have like a short amount of time. But however long ago, 2022, I believe, whatever. So, and he's still in it because he thought he would also get it done a lot faster than it was. And now it's a war of attrition. But of course, it's slightly different because there, the Ukraine has all the supplies coming from the West and help from the West. So it's sort of like a proxy war. Whereas in this situation, really the Gulf states are with America and Israel on this one. So they're, it's not going to be, there's no proxy war to prop up Iran. Okay. And so remember, this is just going down as it's coming in. So things could have changed as I'm reading it. We'll keep going down. Um, Alit, uh, Ali Modhedi, a member of the Assembly of Experts in Iran, responsible, among other things, for appointing successor to Khomeini, said the selection of a new leader will not take long. The American embassy in Kuwait closing the embassy until further notice and canceling regular and emergency appointments. Significant damage caused to Hezbollah radio station building. Okay, and it shows the building. The headquarters of the Kyrgyzstan Freedom Party, which opposes Iran, are being bombed by drones between Erbil and Suleimania. Sorry, I'm not going to be that great with the Middle Eastern names. Bloomberg reports that China is putting pressure on Iran to maintain the openness of the Strait of Hormuz and avoid attacks on oil and LNG supplies, as Beijing is heavily dependent on energy supplies from the Persian Gulf, especially on Qatari gas. After regional attacks disrupted the movement of tankers and Qatar briefly halted LNG production, Chinese officials urged Tehran not to strike energy routes that are critical for global and Chinese markets. The American embassy in Israel. We are not in a situation that allows us to evacuate or assist Americans in leaving Israel. Attack on the Iranian intelligence office in Tehran. Reports of attacks also in Bushehr at this hour. Okay, so then it shows the explosion of that building. IDF ground forces entered southern Lebanon in the last 24 hours. Forces of the 91st Brigade are operating in southern Lebanon area and hold several points in that area. The price of gas on the European exchange has exceeded 700 euros for the first time since January 2023 due to Iran's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. And I think that might have gotten open by now. I'm not for sure. Indian companies have started reducing gas supplies to enterprises by 10 to 30% following the shutdown of LNG production in Qatar and disruptions in supplies through the Strait of Hormuz. A drone hit a fuel tank in Omani commercial port, causing limited damage that was contained. There are no reports of casualties. France is sending air defense systems to Cyprus to help protect the British airbase at Akrotiri, Akrotiri. In Iran, the air defense system is still operational, which shot down another Israeli Hermes drone. In Britain, gasoline has almost doubled in price, 93% since the start of the special operation in the Middle East, according to Sky News. According to reports from the UAE, a fire broke out at an oil facility in Fujairah as a result of debris from an intercepted Iranian drone. Iran launched a new salvo of missiles at U.S. and Israeli targets in the Middle East, Iran's state broadcaster reports. Trump stated that he is not very concerned about the strikes on American bases and embassies as this is part of war. I'm not for sure if Trump said this. So we have to take all this stuff with a grain of salt, remember? The Iranian Red Crescent reported that 757 people have died in Iran since the start. A large number of people have been injured. Among the victims are more than 150 children, of whom were killed during the bombing of a school in Manab. Israeli army enters Lebanon. As usual, the Lebanese army is one of the most cowardly in the Middle East. So apparently they all ran off or something. I saw some other reports about that. A satellite image of the results of the strikes on the UAV base of Iran's IRGC in the Choka Balk area of Kermanshah province near the border with Iraq. 2 large hangars and several buildings were completely destroyed. An oil depot in Firaja is on fire in the UAE. Earlier, an Iranian drone attacked a power station. And this is all showing video of all this too. Based on the latest available satellite images, the IAEA can now confirm some recent damage to buildings of the entrance to the underground fuel enrichment plant in Natanz, Iran. That's where the one of their enrichment plants are. Or maybe that might be the nuclear power plant. I'm not for sure. In Lebanon, they claim to have shot down an Israeli UAV. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps reported that 7 Israeli and American drones were shot down. This morning, another Israeli drone was shot down by Hezbollah in Lebanon. The port of Oman is under attack from Iran. Fire is erupting from the Fujairah oil industry zone in the UAE. Some fuel storage tanks are on fire. Moreover, the Shahab 3 ballistic missiles continue to arrive. And this has a video. Suicide drones attack U.S. Navy base in Doha, Qatar. Multiple arrivals and explosions. The French embassy in Kuwait is temporarily closing due to tensions in the region. Attack of the Shahed on Salalah port in Oman. A burning oil depot in Fallujah after an attack by Iranian Shahid drones. Okay, this is a video, shows massive amounts of people. Funeral for the girls killed in attack on the school in Manab, Iran. The death toll is 165, mostly students as well as parents and teachers. So I don't know if that's correct, but it's a video of clearly Iran with just tons of people in the streets with Iranian flags. The Saudi Arabian Ministry of Foreign Affairs condemned the Iranian attack on the American embassy and also declared the right to respond to the attack. So now Saudi Arabia is getting involved. The Qatari Foreign Ministry subsequently stated that no one had warned them about the flying Iranian missile drones, but they would not leave such attacks unanswered. The IDF demanded the evacuation of the entire population of 80 settlements in southern Lebanon. The Israeli intelligence service Mossad conducted a ground operation in Iran last night, reported Al Arabia TV channel citing sources. Oh, something fell on my keyboard. IDF strikes on the Iraqi-Iranian border strip in Maysan province. An Iranian missile hit Fujairah in the United Arab Emirates. So there's a picture of that. It's a building on fire with tons and tons of black smoke. A massive explosion shook Holon Tel Aviv beach. So it shows the explosion. It looks like a residential area with some tall buildings that might be apartments with cars on the street. Qatar has announced that it will suspend the production of certain chemical industry products, petrochemicals, and processing, including polymers, methanol, aluminum, etc. Saudi Arabia is considering a temporary option to transfer its exports to ports in the Red Sea, but there's no blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, as the Pentagon claimed. France and the United Kingdom, if they decide to intervene in the conflict in Iran, they will engage in intercepting missiles to protect countries in the Persian Gulf and refrain from other actions, reported the Al Monitor portal, citing Western Democrats. Okay, so that's another thing that I was seeing earlier today. What is that sound? The Gulf states are under severe barrages of missiles, and they don't have that many stockpiled things to intercept them. And so they were starting to get really worried about that because they said that they've blown through like years and years of supply. And so I think that the other countries are going to have to step up to provide weapon systems to do that protection, which is really important. The UK is planning to send the HMS Dukin destroyer to the Mediterranean Sea to protect its military base in Cyprus after a bombing, according to The Times. France has deployed Rafale aircraft to the UAE to protect its bases from Iranian attacks, said Foreign Minister Jean-Noel Barrot. On Sunday, their base was attacked. I will be right back. One sec. Okay, the kids' show is just really loud. It's hearing like a strange noise. It says arrivals in Tel Aviv, and it shows cars burning on fire in what looks like a residential area. Passenger on one of the commercial airplanes films the flight of an Iranian ballistic missile, so it shows that. The Temporary Leadership Council of Iran. The council consists of President Masoud Pezeshkian, head of the judiciary Gholam Hossein, Guardian Council Commissioner Ali Raza Arfieh. Loud explosions in Tehran, and it has a huge smoke cloud that's not super black. It's more like white smoke, but it's huge, coming off of what looks like a residential area. Procession to bid farewell to the little Iranian girls that died in the school. So it shows just like a huge procession. An attack by the U.S. and Israeli forces in the area of Bushehr, where the construction of the Bushehr nuclear power plant, okay, that's where the power plant is being carried out with the participation of Rosatom. Okay, so that's where they were constructing a power plant with the help of Rosatom, which is a Russian company. Trump stated that it's already too late to negotiate with Iran. Tel Aviv continues to be subjected to bombardments, and it shows a video of lots and lots of like explosions with like cars in the picture. Looks like a parking lot. General Staff of the Iranian Armed Forces denied reports of any military attacks on Oman's territory or port. A similar statement was made about Saudi Arabia's oil and gas infrastructure. Okay. Rosatom announced that the operation of the nuclear power plant in Iran has been halted. The strikes on the Iranian nuclear facilities are getting out of control. Communication with the leadership of Iran's nuclear industry is now completely lost, and there's no understanding of what's happening with their nuclear facilities. There are 639 Russian employees at the Bushehr nuclear power plant, the department added. So that's coming out of Russia. Footage shows today's strikes. Okay, so then it shows footage of that. Israeli media citing authorities claim that Saudi Arabia is preparing an attack on Iran in response to bombings. Iraq has halted oil production at the country's largest field, South Rumalia. The country's Ministry of Oil announced. The Israeli army announced the start of a large-scale wave of strikes on infrastructure facilities in Tehran. If the U.S. asks, Lithuania will bomb Iran, advisor to the to the President of the Republic. Have the Lithuanian bombers been introduced yet? Was the question. I guess Lithuania might be getting involved soon. The U.S. secretly withdrew military personnel from the bases in the Middle East before an attack on Iran, according to NBC News. Okay, so this is a breakdown of all the main developments so far for today. So main developments regarding the escalation in the Middle East at this hour. The Office of the Council of Experts in Qom, which elects Iran's supreme leader, was attacked, according to Tasnim news agency. The new Iranian defense minister, can't say his name, was dismissed, claims the Israeli 12 TV channel. Donald Trump's niece condemned people who justify U.S. strikes on Iran. So I don't know if that's true. Iran has launched 812 drones at the UAE during the entire conflict, of which 750 drones were intercepted by air defense forces and 57 fell on the country's territory, according to the UAE Ministry of Defense. So that's the United Arab Emirates. Russian tour operators have spent more than 2.6 billion rubles on assisting tourists due to the Middle East crisis since February 28th, according to Etor. The son of the deceased Iranian supreme leader is alive, reports Mehr news agency. Iran's IRGC claims to have destroyed positions of anti-government groups in Iraqi Kurdistan. 40 people were killed and 246 injured in Israeli strikes on Lebanon since March 2nd, according to the country's health minister. Work at nuclear power plants in Iran has been halted, announced Alexei. Okay, so this is a Russian name. He's the head of Rosatom. Reuters publishes footage of the preparation of a mass grave for the victims of the U.S. airstrike at the school in Iran. A partial roof collapse occurred at the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh due to a drone strike. Iraq has halted oil production at the country's largest field, South Rumelia, according to the country's Ministry of Oil. Okay, so according to eyewitnesses, Mossadegh Airport in Tehran has been attacked and a passenger plane destroyed, and it has images. The latest footage of the launch of Iranian ballistic missiles at targets in Israel and the Gulf countries, published by the IRGC. So that just shows a bunch of missiles going into the sky. Footage of the objective control of U.S. Air Force strikes on Iran's ballistic missile launchers, published by CentCom, so that's Central Command. Pakistan reminded Iran of its alliance obligations to Saudi Arabia. I have informed the Iranian side about our defense agreement. Tehran stated that Saudi Arabia should ensure that its territory is not used against Iran. Saudi Arabia and Pakistan signed a mutual defense agreement in September. Iran and Pakistan share a border of more than 900 kilometers. Since the beginning of the conflict, Iran has launched several attacks on Riyadh. Iran is running out of missiles. Trump says, I'm already selecting new candidates for leadership of Iran. There are a lot of applicants. Some of them are very good. An Iran airplane that was destroyed in an airstrike by Israel and the United States in Bashar, so it shows the wreckage of a plane. Iran has obtained enough enriched uranium to produce more than 10 nuclear warheads. The head of the IAEA reports. The result of a strike in Tehran, so it's just like tons of smoke on buildings. Tehran will respond with strikes on all economic centers of the Middle East if major centers of Iran are attacked. The Iranian Defense Ministry believes that the U.S. and Israel will be forced to halt their military operation in the coming days. So it's another thing. They're trying to hold off, which I don't think they'll be able to achieve, but their main goal right now is just to survive and hope that America depletes its ability to continue airstrikes and stuff like that and to shoot down their stuff. A loud explosion occurred in Dubai. The Russian Foreign Ministry has urged Russians to refrain from traveling to the UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia until the situation in the Middle East normalizes. A new series of powerful explosions shook the capital of Qatar and its suburbs. According to its information, about 4 to 5 explosions were heard at the center of Doha, as well as in the satellite city of Lusail to the north of the capital and in the southern suburb of Wakra. Explosions in Abu Dhabi, explosions at U.S. facilities in Kuwait, footage of intercepting Iranian missiles in the sky over Dubai, and so it shows that. The U.S. will continue to use military bases in Spain in operations against Iran if necessary, despite Madrid's discontent, Trump announced. The U.S. will cut off all trade with Spain, the American leader stated. Trump stated that most of the people he considered as an alternative to the current government in Iran may have been killed in an attack on the Republic. Most of the people are already dead. So this is him saying, quote, most of the people are already dead. We had a group in our sights and they died. And now we have another group. Perhaps they are also dead, judging by the reports. So I think a third wave is coming, stated the American president. The U.S. is not satisfied with the U.K.'s approaches to defense and operations against Iran, Trump said. The UAE is considering the possibility of conducting military actions against Iran in response to missile and drone attacks by Axios. The chief of the general staff of the Israeli army stated that the operation in Lebanon will continue until the complete disarmament of Hezbollah. Military officials question fortifications at site where U.S. troops were killed in Iranian strike. Okay, so this is a CBS News report. All 6 dead American military personnel were killed as a result of an Iranian drone strike on a tactical operations center in Shahaba port in Kuwait, according to CBS News. Defense Minister Pete Hegseth said the building was fortified, but the air defense system failed to shoot down all launched objects. That's another thing. The longer a war is sustained with this type of operations going on back and forth like this, just gives more opportunity for failures. They don't always get every single one that comes through, and then something can happen. So it's just a really, really dangerous time for everyone, and it's very unfortunate that those soldiers were caught in that. Fights are ongoing in southern Lebanon, where Hezbollah was confronted Israeli tanks equipped with the Hornet anti-tank missile system. Reports indicate that the second tank has already been destroyed. The White House officially announced that the actions against Iran are not a war, but a major military operation, and named its objectives. Okay, so this is really important. Demilitarization of Iran, protection of the U.S. from threats from Iran, including in the future, elimination of the Ayatollah's terrorist regime, guarantees that Iran will not have nuclear weapons. So those are the 4 main objectives. Iran does not have a detailed information about the condition of nuclear facilities attacked in the country's foreign minister stated. So that's a infographic that came out of the... Okay, so this is an infographic. Operation Epic Fury, first 72 hours. Overview: U.S. Central Command commenced Operation Epic Fury at the direction of the President of the United States. CentCom forces are striking targets to dismantle the Iranian regime's security apparatus, prioritizing locations that pose an imminent threat. So it says, operation launched at 1:15 a.m. on February 28th. Operation location, CentCom, area of responsibility. Target location, Iran. Target struck over 1,700. Types of targets: command and control centers, IRGC Joint Headquarters, IRGC Aerospace Forces Headquarters, Integrated Air Defense Systems, ballistic missile sites, Iranian Navy ships, Iranian Navy submarines, anti-ship missile sites, military communication capabilities, assets employed, so U.S. assets employed. B-1 bombers, B-2 stealth bombers, B-52 bombers, Lucas drones, Patriot interceptor missile systems, THAAD anti-ballistic missile systems, F-15 fighter jets, F-16s, F-18s, F-22 stealth fighters, F-35 stealth fighters, A-10 attack jets, EA-18G electronic attack aircraft, airborne early warning and control aircraft, airborne communication relay, P-8 maritime patrol aircraft, RC-135 Renaissance aircraft, MQ-9 Reapers, M142 high mobility artillery rocket systems, nuclear powered aircraft carriers, guided missile destroyers, counter drone systems, refueling tanker aircraft. So that's the aircraft that they refuel the planes with in the skies, I believe. Refueling ships, C-17 Globemaster cargo aircraft, C-130 cargo aircraft, and special capabilities we can't list here. It's quite a lot. My goodness. The U.S. Embassy in Beirut announces that it will be closed until further notice due to ongoing regional tensions. The Iranian forces managed to bring down an Israeli drone of Hermes 900 model through electronic means. And it shows that, a picture of that, several pictures. Footage showing Azadi Square in Tehran after Israeli strikes carried out earlier today, so it shows that footage. Every Iranian commander has 3 deputies. The death of generals will not lead to a vacuum in command, said a representative of the Iranian Defense Ministry. Now, that's coming out of Iran, right? But there is like a mosaic, it's called a mosaic form of defense where they have levels of defense all the way down to neighborhood levels. Like they literally have created their defense system as a mosaic. So that's going to complicate things a lot more. It's not just centrally controlled. So if one thing goes out, the next level activates. And if that goes out, the next level activates. And if that goes out, the next level activates. And they have that not only inside their own country, but they also have it outside of their country in their allied countries. The supreme leader of Iran will be buried in his hometown of Mashhad, according to Fars news agency. The UK Ministry of Defense is for the first time publishing footage of the interception of an Iranian UAV by its Eurofighter Typhoon FGR-4 in the skies over Jordan. And there's footage of that. It is confirmed that the radar of the THAAD air defense system of the U.S. Armed Forces at Al Ruwais base in the UAE has been destroyed. Oh, that's not good. The IRG announced the destruction of 2 radars of this type, which seriously weakened the U.S. ability to intercept Iranian missiles. Now, this could be false. Are there pictures? I don't know. They're really blurry. I have ordered the aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle, its aircraft and escort groups to urgently deploy to the Mediterranean Sea, French President Emmanuel Macron at the end of his address to the French nation. Yesterday, the aircraft left the Baltic Sea. U.S. considering military support for Middle East oil and gas supplies. The U.S. is considering the possibility of providing military protection for oil and gas tankers passing through the Strait of Hormuz, according to Politico. Military support for oil and gas supplies, a source told the publication, answering the question about possibility of U.S. naval ships escorting vessels passing through the strait. There is a growing concern that energy markets may face pressure in the coming days as the military campaign intensifies and expands its geographical scope. Access to the Strait of Hormuz is obviously vital for both natural gas and crude oil supplies, especially from Qatar and Saudi Arabia, he added. Recall, Iran announced the closure of the Strait of Hormuz for all ships. It should be noted that if the U.S. provides military ships for the convoy of tankers Okay, so recall how Iran announced the closure of the Strait of Hormuz for all ships. It should be noted that if the U.S. provides military ships for the convoy of tankers, this will greatly increase the risk of their being hit by an Iranian missile. Currently, all U.S. military ships have been withdrawn from the Persian Gulf to distance from Iran in order to minimize the risk of effective strikes. If American military ships enter the Strait of Hormuz, this risk will increase exponentially. Now, I don't know. I think they might have dealt with that already by now, but Hezbollah reported that it was able to destroy another Merkava, also hitting it with an anti-tank missile system. In addition, 3 Israeli drones were claimed to have been shot down over the past 24 hours in general. They are getting some, not all. The U.S. consulate in Dubai is on fire after Iranian strike. The moment of the air attack on the U.S. consulate in Dubai was captured on camera by eyewitnesses. The Europe will plunge into hell due to rising oil prices after the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, said Siberian President Alexander Vucic. Now, we don't know. Like I said, take all this with a grain of salt. The strike on the city of Urmia in Iran, a GBU 31 GDAM air bomb is incoming. It's got a video. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said in his statement yesterday, which many interpreted as meaning the U.S. entered the conflict because of Israel, that is not true. The U.S. would have entered anyway. We will not allow Iran to hide behind a nuclear program or carry out attacks. It is a matter of timing, not the objective. The decision was made because of the collapse of negotiations and because of the threat posed by Iran. The fire at Fuchsia Port is still ongoing, and it's got a video. Iran has again struck the Al Udeid air base in Qatar. The Qatari Ministry of Defense reported that there is no casualties among the Qataris, and 2 more ballistic missiles hit the base. There is still a lot to be destroyed there. The base is large, although it has already been heavily damaged. Detonation of the ammunition of Iranian air defense system Sevan Khordad, which was located in the territory of the equipment holding area as a result a strike by the Israeli Air Force. And so it shows that it's huge. So it shows the ammunition depots like a bunch of what looks sort of like trailers next to each other, and then just like a huge explosion, and then that going off into like hundreds and hundreds of explosions. According to the IRGC's statements, 10 oil tankers have been hit since the beginning of the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Clearly, not all of them were caught on video. Nevertheless, not many are willing to venture into the strait. U.S. State Marco Rubio on Iran. In the coming days and hours, you will begin to feel a change in the scope of intensity of attacks on Iran. Feel a change in the scope and intensity of attacks on Iran. The 2 best air forces in the world are taking part in this. We will destroy their ability to support terrorism. We will destroy their factories, and we will destroy their navy. Okay, so this releases the names of the servicemen and women that were killed in Kuwait. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is 4 people. I don't want to butcher their names, so I'm not going to say them right now because I don't know how they're pronounced and I don't want to disrespect them. The Israeli Air Force carried out strikes on the locations of members of pro-Iranian groups in western Iraq who were launching kamikaze drones and missiles into Israeli territory. The CIA has ordered the evacuation of all of its residences within the range of Iranian ballistic missiles, the Hill reports citing its own sources. The decision was made after the attack of an Iranian kamikaze drone on a CIA residence in the compound of the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh. I think that was the end of that thread for today. So that's a lot, and I'm following like 4 threads, but that one had just the most all in one place without a lot of they will forward them from place to place. So you'll get a lot of crossover, and that one doesn't do that as often. So I went with that one. Now, let me pause this really quick so I can gather up everything I want to show you online. Look, I'm going to be real honest with you guys. If I can't get people to subscribe or like, YouTube will literally send aliens to my house. Do you want me to be probed? I need you to like and to subscribe. Thank you. Okay, so here is Marco Rubio talking.
The United States conducted this operation with a very clear goal in mind. I haven't got a chance to see a lot of reporting. I don't understand what the confusion is. Let me explain it to you, and I'll do it once again as clearly as possible. Perhaps you'll report it that way. The United States is conducting an operation to eliminate the threat of Iran's short-range ballistic missiles and the threat posed by their Navy, particularly to naval assets. That is what it is focused on doing right now, and it's doing quite successfully. I'll leave it to the Pentagon and the Department of War to discuss the tactics behind that and the progress that's being made. That is the clear objective of this mission. The second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's two reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond and respond against the United States. The orders had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact, it bared to be true, because in fact, within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
Okay, so this is actually Marco Rubio 11 years ago. I found this extremely interesting, so let's give it a listen.
Mr. President, I'll be brief. I know the senator from Tennessee would like to close on this matter. I think everything that needs to be said about the details of this deal have already been said. I do want to be recorded for history's purposes before I know what was going to happen in regards to this if it goes through. Iran will immediately use the money that it's receiving in sanctions relief to begin to build up its conventional capabilities. It will establish the most dominant military power in the region outside of the United States, and it will raise the price of...
So this was with the, what was it? The Iran deal or whatever, 11 years ago? That's what he's arguing against.
Of us operating in the region. They're going to build anti-access capabilities, rockets capable of destroying our aircraft carriers and ships. Continue to build these swift boats that are able to come on us, these fast boats that are able to swarm our naval assets. And they'll make it harder and harder for U.S. troops to be in the region. They'll also work with other terrorist groups in the region to target American servicemen and women. And they may or may not deny that they're involved, but they will target us and raise the price of our presence in the Middle East until they hope to completely pull us out of that region. They'll also continue to build long-range missiles, missiles capable of reaching the United States. Those are not affected by this deal, and they'll continue to build them as they've been doing. And then at some point in the near future, when the time is right, they will build a nuclear weapon. And they will do so because at that point they will know that they have become immune, that we will no longer be able to strike their nuclear program because the price of doing so will be too high. This is not just a work of imagination. It exists in the world today. It's called North Korea, where a lunatic possesses dozens of nuclear weapons and a long-range rocket that can already reach the United States. And we cannot do anything about it. An attack on North Korea today would result in an attack on Tokyo, or Seoul, or Guam, or Hawaii, or California. And so the world must now live with a lunatic in possession of nuclear weapons. And this is the goal Iran has as well, to reach a point where they become immune to any sort of credible military threat because the price of a military strike would be too high. And then they become an established nuclear weapons power. And never in the history of the world has such a regime ever possessed weapons so capable of destruction. Iran is led by a supreme leader who is a radical Shia cleric with an apocalyptic vision of the future. He is not a traditional geopolitical actor who makes decisions on the basis of borders or simply history or because of ambitions. He has an religious apocalyptic vision of the future, one that calls for triggering a conflict between the non-Muslim world and the Muslim world, one that he feels especially obligated to trigger. And he's going to possess nuclear weapons. This is the world that we are on the verge of leaving our children to inherit, and perhaps we ourselves will have to share in it. And so I want to be recorded for history's purposes, if nothing else, to say that those of us who opposed this deal understood where it would lead, and we are making a terrible mistake. And I fear that the passage of this deal will make it even harder for us to prevent it. And I hope that there is still time to change our minds, but here's the good news. Iran may have a supreme leader, but America does not. In this nation, we have a republic, and soon we will have new leaders, perhaps in this chamber, but also in the executive branch. And I pray that on their first day in office, they will reverse this deal and reimpose the sanctions and back them up with a credible threat of military force, or history will condemn us for not doing what needed to be done at this critical moment in the world's history. I yield the floor.
Okay, well, that was really prophetic. I feel like, I mean, I was like, wow, that's crazy. Okay, let me find, I want to show you another thing. Found this interesting to follow that because this is Witkoff. So he doesn't technically work for the government, but he's like sent everywhere. He's like Trump's friend, and he's sent everywhere to do diplomatic relations, like with Russia and Ukraine and different places in the Middle East. And so let's listen to what he had to say, which I also found really interesting. And this probably wasn't the best idea for the regime in Iran to do. They probably shouldn't have done this. They're probably thinking that it would result in a different way, but this was probably a really bad idea.
90% material, Sean, can be brought to 90%. That's weapons grade, in roughly 1 week, maybe 10 days at the outside. The 20% can be brought to weapons grade inside of 3 to 4 weeks. And let me say this, because I forgot this small little detail. In that first meeting, both the Iranian negotiators said to us directly, with no shame, that they controlled 460 kilograms of 60%, and they're aware that that could make 11 nuclear bombs, and that was the beginning of their negotiating stance. So they were proud of it. They were proud that they had evaded all sorts of oversight protocols to get to a place where they could deliver 11 nuclear bombs. 90% material.
Okay, so probably not the best idea, I imagine, to start off with that. Okay, let me find. Okay, so I found this really interesting of the British Prime Minister coming out. He looks really worried. Let's see what he has to say.
Yesterday, I spoke to you about the situation in the Gulf and explained that the United Kingdom was not involved in the strikes on Iran. That remains the case. Over the last 2 days, Iran has launched sustained attacks across the region at countries who did not attack them. They've hit airports and hotels where British citizens are staying. This is clearly a dangerous situation. We have at least 200,000 British citizens in the region, residents, families on holiday, and those in transit. I ask all our people in the region to please register your presence and follow Foreign Office travel advice. I know this is a deeply worrying time, and we will continue to do all we can to support you. Our armed forces, who are located across the region, are also being put at risk by Iran's actions. Yesterday, Iran hit a military base in Bahrain, narrowly missing British personnel. The death of the supreme leader will not stop Iran from launching these strikes. Their approach is becoming even more reckless and more dangerous to civilians. Our decision that the UK would not be involved with the strikes on Iran was deliberate, not least because we believe that the best way forward for the region and for the world is a negotiated settlement, one in which Iran agrees to give up any aspirations to develop a nuclear weapon. But Iran is striking British interests nonetheless and putting British people at huge risk, along with our allies across the region. That is the situation we face today. Our partners in the Gulf have asked us to do more to defend them, and it is my duty to protect British lives. We have British jets in the air as part of coordinated defensive operations, which have already successfully intercepted Iranian strikes. But the only way to stop the threat is to destroy the missiles at source, in their storage depots, or the launchers which are used to fire the missiles. The United States has requested permission to use British bases for that specific and limited defensive purpose. We have taken the decision to accept this request to prevent Iran firing missiles across the region, killing innocent civilians, putting British lives at risk, and hitting countries that have not been involved. The basis of our decision is the collective self-defense of long-standing friends and allies and protecting British lives. That is in accordance with international law, and we are publishing a summary of our legal advice. We are not joining these strikes, but we will continue with our defensive actions in the region. And we will also bring experts from Ukraine together with our own experts to help Gulf partners shoot down Iranian drones attacking them. I want to be very clear. We all remember the mistakes of Iraq, and we have learned those lessons. We were not involved in the initial strikes on Iran, and we will not join offensive action now. But Iran is pursuing a scorched earth strategy, so we are supporting the collective self-defense of our allies and our people in the region, because that is our duty to the British people. It is the best way to eliminate the urgent threat and prevent the situation spiralling further. This is the British government protecting British interests and British lives.
Okay, so that was really interesting. Let me show you this. Okay, so this is some of the stuff that they're talking about. These are loitering munitions, and they are highly mobile, meaning they can move these all around. They have tons and tons and tons of these all over the place, and they are, one second. Let me show you. Oops. Okay, so Iran is shooting down dozens of U.S. and Israeli ISR drones operating over Iran using a number of dispersed, cheap, numerous, and effective anti-air systems, including 358 loitering missiles with massive IR sensors capable of detecting drones and striking before the drone itself detects the loitering missile. Because all they require is rudimentary launch platforms. They do not require radars or command centers. They are easy to hide and move and use. Okay, so that's some of the difficulties going on with that. Now, I also want to show you, one second. Okay, so this is an update. All this hectic, everything sounds really, really crazy. Here is an update just I believe it was put out not too long ago, where he gives you an update on operations that are going on from the United States side. And he will also talk about the loitering munitions. Okay, so let's hear what he has to say.
Good afternoon. I'm Admiral Brad Cooper, the commander of United States Central Command. In this capacity, I lead U.S. military forces in the Middle East. I'm here to provide you an update on Operation Epic Fury, now in our 4th day of execution. First, I'd like to express my deepest condolences to the families and teammates of the extraordinary Americans who've been killed in action, and I'd also like to extend our prayers for a speedy recovery to the wounded. Yesterday, you heard from Secretary Hegseth and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Today, I'd like to give you an operational update on where we are and provide you with some key facts. By order of the President of the United States and the Secretary of War, our military in the Middle East is undertaking an unprecedented operation to eliminate Iran's ability to threaten Americans, as they've been doing for nearly half a century. Having spent more than 36 years in the military, I could not be prouder of America's sons and daughters in uniform who are answering the call. More than 50,000 troops, 200 fighters, 2 aircraft carriers, and bombers from the United States are participating in this operation, and more capability is on the way. These forces bring a massive amount of firepower, representing the largest buildup by the U.S. in the Middle East in a generation. In the opening hours of Operation Epic Fury, U.S. Central Command forces, together with Israel, delivered overwhelming and unprecedented strikes into Iran. Many of you may remember the shock and awe strikes of 2003. The first 24 hours of this operation were nearly double the scale, and we continue with 24/7 strikes into Iran from seabed to space and cyberspace. Now, we're less than 100 hours into this operation, and we've already struck nearly 2,000 targets with more than 2,000 munitions. We have severely degraded Iran's air defenses and destroyed hundreds of Iran's ballistic missiles, launchers, and drones. And in simple terms, we're focused on shooting all the things that can shoot at us. Our B-2 bombers and B-1 bombers have executed uncontested surgical strikes against multiple missile facilities deep inside Iran. And then just last night, a B-52 bomber force struck ballistic missile and command and control posts. We are also sinking the Iranian Navy, the entire Navy. Thus far, we've destroyed 17 Iranian ships, including the most operational Iranian submarine that now has a hole in its side. For decades, the Iranian regime has harassed international shipping. Today, there's not a single Iranian ship underway in the Arabian Gulf, Strait of Hormuz, or Gulf of Oman, and we will not stop. We will continue to conduct dynamic targeting operations. We're hunting Iran's last remaining mobile ballistic missile launchers to eliminate what I would characterize as their lingering launch capability. Now, in retaliation, the Iranian regime has launched over.
So I think what he's meaning by the lingering launch capability is those things I just showed you, is what I'm sort of wondering if that's what he's talking about. They're sort of spread out everywhere, hard to see, hard to find. Iran is a huge country, and if you guys watched my last video on Iran, where I just did like a brief history, like I do with my story narrative history thing, and then I just kind of gave my thoughts on it. But I showed during my narrative pictures of Iran, beautiful pictures. It is a huge, wide terrain country, and so this is very difficult, you know?
Over 500 ballistic missiles and over 2,000 drones. To be clear, Iran is indiscriminately targeting civilians as they launch these missiles and drones. You've seen it on TV. The evidence is crystal clear and overwhelming. Having said this, we are seeing Iran's ability to hit us and our partners is declining, while our combat power, on the other hand, is building. And my overall operational assessment is that we are ahead of our game plan. Along the way, every single branch of our military is achieving unprecedented success. I'll talk about just a few of them. Our naval forces have deployed multiple waves of cruise missiles, obliterating Iranian command and control and air defense capabilities. From 2 aircraft carrier strike groups, we're squeezing Iran from the sea and have them backed into their own ports. U.S. air forces are doing what they do best, executing a high volume of airstrikes right into Iran. Operationally, the 2 most powerful air forces in the world, the U.S. and Israel, are dominating the skies of the world's largest state sponsor of terror. Our U.S. Army soldiers are defending ourselves and our partners, and in a historic first, the U.S. Army fired long-range precision strike missiles called PRISMs in combat, providing an unrivaled deep strike capability. Also, for the first time, U.S. Central Command's drone task force, called Task Force Scorpion Strike, launched countless one-way attack drones, achieving massive effects. I'd like to point out these drones were originally an Iranian design. We took them back to America, made them better, and fired them right back at Iran. I just could not be prouder of our men and women in uniform, leveraging innovation to create dilemmas for the enemy. There is no adversary too determined, no mission too difficult for the great soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Guardians, and Coast Guardsmen that make up the most powerful military the world has ever seen. Our military objectives are crystal clear, and our people are executing an immensely complex and historic mission with relentless lethality, conviction, and professionalism. And we've just begun. But I have the utmost confidence that we, alongside our partners, will absolutely achieve our military objectives. To all our warriors, Godspeed. Thanks so much.
Okay, so I found that very interesting. Nice update. He seems like everything's going well. I was a little worried today. I don't want this to be spread out, more people getting hurt, regional conflicts exploding in places we didn't think, which is a possibility. There have been some clashes inside some of these Gulf countries that have been very dangerous, of people shooting, like breaking out shooting and stuff like that. There are groups that cause those kind of problems in all these countries. And so we just need to, hopefully this will come to a resolution as quickly as possible. Whatever that resolution is, I don't know. I'm trying to remain neutral at this point. So let me find some other stuff I want to show you. Okay, so let's listen to Donald Trump. The headline on this is that he rips into Keir Starmer, so in the UK. So let's see what he said.
And so has UK. Now the second one is shocking, but this is not the age of Churchill. I will say the UK has been very, very uncooperative with that stupid island that they have, that they gave away and took a 100-year lease, having to do with perhaps indigenous people claiming the island that never even saw the island before. What's that all about? And they ruin relationships. It's a shame. It's and that country, UK, and I love that country. I love it. My mother was born there. I love it. My mother was born there. My father was born. Right? He knows all about my father. My father was born there. So, you know, very places that you sort of automatically very feel warmly about. But the UK, what they're doing with energy and what they're doing with immigration is horrible. You have the North Sea. Somebody said yesterday, what?
Okay, so just so everybody knows, like apparently they're putting the orange filter back on him again, which is what they did last time he was in office on the mainstream news. His skin actually doesn't look like that. Just so everyone knows, they put an orange filter on him. So if you see the same exact thing and another news station that doesn't do that, that's why he won't look orange in that one. Okay, so response to Spain, President Trump and Secretary Scott Bessent confirmed 47 has the full right to abolish trade with Spain thanks to SCOTUS. Spain blocked us from using military bases. Now they're finding out. Okay, so let's see what he says.
Scott, do you have an opinion?
Sir, I agree. The Supreme Court
Given to us by the Supreme Court, and we have the right. As an example, we talked about Spain. I could tomorrow stop, or today, even better, stop everything having to do with Spain. All business having to do with Spain. I have the right to stop it. Embargoes, do anything I want with it. And we may do that with Spain. What do you think?
Well, sir, I think we're going to talk about it with you. I know that you have strong power. The Supreme Court clarified. We know you can use it, and if you need to use it to assure national and economic security, we'll do it.
Scott, do you have an opinion?
Sir, I agree. The Supreme Court reaffirmed your ability to implement an embargo, and as we've talked, from your first term, the Section 301s and the 232s have withheld more than 4,000 lawsuits, and USTR and Commerce are going to begin investigations, and we'll move forward with those.
And we've instituted a 15% tariff.
Okay.
Do you have someone in mind right now? Because you said all.
So this is in regards to what we saw reported on my War Telegram channel, that he was saying that people he had in mind for replacing were dead. So let's see it from himself.
Do you have someone in mind right now? Because you said all the people you did have in mind have been taken out. What do you think?
Well, most of the people we had in mind are dead. So, you know, we had some in mind from that group that is dead. And now we have another group. They may be dead also, based on reports. So I guess you have a third wave coming in. Pretty soon we're not going to know anybody.
Do you have someone in mind right now?
Okay, so I want to show you guys this. So in my last video, I talked about London and its ties to Iran and all the weirdness with the oil and stuff there. And so this person says this is a ballsy power play by Trump. Lloyd's of London was the gold standard for maritime insurance policies until just a day or two when they started canceling policies or jacking them up 3 to 5 times. Other insurers followed. That collapsed commercial shipping through the Hormuz, the Strait of Hormuz, which choked oil shipments out of the Middle East. So I bet they were trying to do some kind of a financial sabotage thing. Trump doing this means that the DFC has the chance to displace Lloyd's as the big dog in this game when they have been the lock-in player for many years. It also frees up the oil that was getting trapped there, heading off shortages and keeping the energy market alive. And why not? It's the American Navy that sunk the Iranian ships that were harassing tankers, and the American Navy, at least for now, will keep those tankers safe. It is a huge reassurance to allies, both oil producers and oil consumers, that our campaign in Iran isn't going to sink their economies, and it allows America to be choosy about traffic in the Strait. It also potentially means billions of dollars in insurance premiums at wartime rates going to America instead of the UK, and those rates are still going to be cheaper than what shippers are getting. So this is Trump. Effective immediately, I've ordered the United States Development Finance Corporation to provide at least very reasonable price, political risk insurance, and guarantees for the financial security of all maritime trade, especially energy traveling through the Gulf. This will be available to all shipping lanes. If necessary, the United States will begin escorting tankers through the Strait of Hormuz as soon as possible. No matter what, the United States will ensure the free flow of energy to the world. The United States economic and military might is the greatest on earth. More actions to come. Thank you for attention to this matter, President Donald Trump. Okay, so I found that really interesting based off of our talks yesterday on my video, or the one today, whenever it came out. Then there's also this, all the City of London Maritime Insurance are just, okay, that's the same thing. So those are just two ones that then the EU urges Ukraine to allow access to pipeline carrying Russian oil. So let's see what this is. Okay, it's behind a paywall, but it's from the Financial Times. But I found that interesting. Okay, I think that that's everything that I have. Oh, no, wait, let me see. I have one. Well, I'll just tell you. So that way I don't have to pull anything else up. So some people, oh, wait, I have it right here. Okay, I can't find it super easily. So, okay, so some people are wondering if Iran or if China and Russia will instigate in this whole mess and add themselves to it. They will not. And here's why. They do not have the capabilities to reach out the way that the United States does. The United States has built up for decades and decades a military that can reach across the world by having bases. They have equipment that they have made for doing such a thing, such as carriers, the planes that refuel the planes in the sky. They have bases that they hop to. You do not just send a whole fleet of whatever, whether it's ground forces, copters, whatever. You don't just make a call and then send them. It takes decades and decades of planning ahead and having military bases and having the equipment needed to transport your weapon systems and your men and the logistics of everything needed for that to happen. Because when you have a military base, it has everything in it that the men there need to survive. Food, water, clothing, daily supplies, those are all being shipped from depots on a constant basis. This is way more complicated than people think. And China and Russia do not have those capabilities because they have capabilities mostly of defense. So they have the capabilities is what they have focused on mostly over these decades is building up their capabilities to defend their borders. They do not have the equipment, therefore they do not have the capacity to actually go outwards. Now, Russia did have bases in the area of Syria that they were able to hold off Syria from falling and toppling. But once the proxy war started in Ukraine, they had to pull out of there because they just didn't have enough resources to have two sustained fronts like that. And there's no way in hell they're going to put themselves in danger, their borders in danger, by doing anything of such a thing. And they don't have the capacity to do it anyway. So these ideas, anything you hear about Russia and China getting involved, that's not going to happen. I follow geopolitics very well. It's one of my main things that I'm interested in, and so I follow it very heavily, and I especially follow Eastern European stuff that's going on because I particularly, ever since I was a teenager, have had a interest in the history of that area and the geopolitics of that area. So I'm just like really well versed in that subject. And I pay attention to pretty much everywhere, but I have an affinity to that area for whatever reason. I'm not really for sure. But so I am telling you that they are not going to do anything as such. Everything that they will do will be financial support and weapon support. They can possibly do stuff like that, but that is basically all they're going to do, and that's not going to be causing any real pain to America or cause any reason for there to be an outburst of war all over. So anybody selling you that, they just don't understand or they're lying. So everybody can just put those fears to rest. What we need to focus on is we need to pray that nobody else gets hurt. We need to pray that these launches out of Iran get taken care of, whether we agree or not that the operation should have commenced. It has commenced, and now there is retaliation from that, and we need to now pray that it will be, you know, taken care of as soon as possible so that less damage and less people are hurt in that area. And we need to pray for our own areas in the West and in other countries, in America, in Europe, etc., even in these Gulf states, that no terrorist acts will happen. And we need to just pray for our armed forces and the brave men and women of the armed forces, whether you agree with the operation or not. They're still Americans, and we still need to pray for their safety. And they're just doing their job. That's what they are, soldiers, right? So it's what they're supposed to do. And so we need to pray for their safety, and we need to pray for the safety of the operation, that it gets done as quickly as possible, that it doesn't keep spreading, and that, you know, this can go over as smoothly as possible. And I don't really know what the plan is for the regime changes going on there. I guess the hope is that a government will come into place that will realize that they have to work with everybody regionally and get along and not have the capacity to build weapons and not support what is perceived as enemies to the people of that region. And that way everybody can get along and I guess have good economic success is like, I guess, the best outlook that we can all be hoping for. So anyway, got a lot of thoughts about everything, but I just wanted to not add mine to the fray because I feel like it's a really vulnerable time and I would really just want to support the troops and not put out a lot of negativity. And so that's what I'm going to say for now. I just wanted to show everybody what was going on. I'm monitoring the situation all day long and very close, and I will continue to give updates as if I can. For some reason, the kids are being extremely good, and we're just like they haven't made hardly any noise this whole time. So I was able to get this out. It's not in the middle of the night, and I'm going to try to zoom through it as and just edit out like the really long pauses, but I'm not going to edit out where I mess up words or whatever. And I'm just going to try to get this out as soon as possible, and I will try to do that every couple of days. And so hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Well, and if you did, if you could please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if you want me to keep giving you updates. I'm a brand new channel. I'm very small, so any subscribers or any support I can get is very appreciated to me, and I'm extremely grateful. I love hearing from people in the comments, even when they're negative. Thank you guys for being here, and well, that's the end of that video, and I'll see you next time on The Eclectic Journalist.